Hello. Today we'll be going over what a recession is and how do we know we're in one. Imagine waking up one morning finding out that your hours of work have been cut, the price of groceries have gone up, and a close friend just got laid off at work. For many families in America, that is reality during a recession. Recessions are more than just numbers on a screen. They're events that affect every part of daily life. Today I want to explain to you what a recession is and how it affects life. Um, and I'll be going over how economists determine when the U.S. is in one and the key signs that signal when our economy has slowed down. By the end of the speech, you'll understand the definition of what a recession is and learn about the key indicators that experts and we citizens can use to watch for in order to recognize when the economy is weakening. So let's start with the basic. What is a recession? According to the International Monetary Fund, recession is defined as, quote, a significant decline in economic activity that is spread across the economy that lasts more than a few months. That definition matters because it shows us two things. First, a recession isn't just a dip, it's in one part of the economy. It's broad, affecting industry workers and households across the country. Second, it isn't just a bad month or two. It lasts long enough to disrupt the entire system. You may have heard the 2 quarters of negative GDP growth of GDP, 2 quarters of negative GDP growth rule. It states that if the economy shrinks for 6 months in a row, we're in a recession. That's often used as shorthand, but economists like those at the IMF and the Federal Reserve point out that this isn't the only measure. Sometimes GDP falls for a short period without widespread damage. Other times, unemployment or spending may tell a clear story. That's why we look at many indicators, not just one. Economics rely on several indicators, in fact, such as GDP, unemployment, consumer spending, probability models, declining income, and declining industrial production and business sales. Let's go over them each one by one, and we'll start with GDP. So, GDP is the value of all goods and services produced as a measure that we in the U.S. use. So, when GDP contracts itself, it means that the economy is shrinking. Right? We're producing less goods, we're producing less services. According to the Chase Bank's 2025 report on recession indicators, GDP growth is one of the earliest signs of a slowdown. If businesses produce less and people buy less, GDP drops, and that signals broader troubles to come. All right, let's go to number two, unemployment. So unemployment is a powerful signal. Perhaps the most visible sign of a recession is unemployment. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported in August 2025 that the U.S. unemployment rate rose to 4.3. Reuters described this as the highest unemployment in nearly 4 years, showing that the labor market has lost momentum. When people lose jobs, they spend less. The reduction in spending then causes businesses to cut back further, creating a cycle that deepens the recession. All right, number three, consumer spending. So consumer spending makes up about 2/3 of the U.S. economy. Chase's 2025 analyst emphasizes that when families cut back on shopping, travel, and entertainment, it ripples across businesses everywhere. Lower consumer demand reduces company revenue, which in turn leads to layoffs and closures. In other words, consumer confidence is a major fuel for growth, and when it disappears, so does expansion. So number four is probability models. Economists use economists use probability models to gauge the likelihood of recession in real time. The Federal Reserve Bank of Stuart St. Louis explained in a May 2025 article how they use the SIAM rule and other tools to estimate recession probability. These models look at trends in unemployment and other data to give policymakers an early warning that the economy might be in decline. So when GDP falls, unemployment rises, consumer spending shrinks, and the probability models flash warning signs. Together, these indicators paint a clear picture of a recession. So number 5 and 6, declining income and industrial output. Let's go over number 5, declining income. Another key indicator is declining income. When wages and salaries begin to drop across industries, families have to have less purchasing power. The IMF notes that falling income levels are often the first signs that a slowdown has become widespread. Lower earnings reduce household savings and spendings, making recovery more difficult. Industrial production and business sales. This is finally industrial production and business sales provide a snapshot of how the economy is actually producing and selling. The Federal Reserve industrial output data often declines sharply before or during a recession. When factories make less and retail or wholesales drop, it's clear that demand and output are both weakening across sectors. How does this affect us? What does this all mean for everyday people? The first and most painful effect is job loss. Reuters reports that job seekers in the late 2025 are facing one of the weakest labor markets in several years. When workers lose jobs or can't find new ones quickly, household incomes and drop, family struggles to cover essentials like rent, mortgages, and groceries. The second effect is reduced financial stability for families. Chase's research in 2025 shows that during recessions, families often cut back on spending, not just because they have less money, but because they fear losing income in the future. This means that money goes into the economy, less money goes into the economy, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. The third effect is young people entering the workforce can't find jobs. This creates long-term consequences that outlast the recession itself. So recessions aren't just abstract concepts. They're real events that affect livelihoods, families, and even for future generations. By understanding what a recession is and recognizing its signs, we are better prepared to navigate these periods of uncertainty. Thank you for listening to the speech. I hope you understand what a recession is.